got in? We got our steering box back in, and they did. Kelly Bremer fixed the threads for me. And I cannot, some of you that know this stuff will know what that is just by seeing that thing in the bottom. But I cannot, for the life of me, remember what the name of those inserts are that they put inside of those stripped out threads. But that is fixed, and it is ready to go back on there. I'm gonna get 2 more of those. Mike Seitz has got some of those, he said, sitting there at his shop waiting for me. So to put that back on, I'm gonna give it a little clean first. She's a little dirty, but then we will slide this up. You can see those grooves there. They go inside your tube there. And then there's also a bolt, this one right here. It's actually got it's not focusing very well. It's actually got a hex head. There it goes, hex head inside of there with a locking washer or locking nut, nylon locking nut. It screws in on the bottom side of this. We'll turn it once I get it installed, so we can get it lined up. But then that holds that into that groove right there. That's where you want that. You want that to sit in that groove like that, so that holds your steering shaft onto your steering box. So I've got some, I went to Lowe's and spent, $40 or so on a big assortment of grade 8 bolts. Most of these are 1/2 inch. There's some 7/16 for the seat. So we can properly mount that this time. But most of these other bolts, your big ones, they're 1/2 inch by 13. So I got just various different sizes so I can make sure I've got what I need to get everything put back in. So sit tight and we'll get this cleaned up and get this steering box mounted back in there. Okay, so I got this spun around here for you. That set screw goes in that groove that I showed you, and then this nut goes right on top of that, and that holds that in place, and I'll tighten that down. Man, that thing is smooth. That thing turns. I've never had a steering wheel turn that smooth, so I'm excited. Now I can get these swedge tubes that go over to the wheels hooked up. Right there is where they go, and we can put some front tires on this thing once we get a motor in and wheel it around. Just kidding. We gotta get the back end still. But all right, so that is how you mount your steering box to finish that up. All right, looky there. We got wheels turning again. They're a little off. I don't have these set, and like I said, nothing's tight. But don't forget your 11-inch bar goes on your left, and your 12-inch bar goes on the right. So that way when you set up all your camber and caster and stuff, that way you've got more play, I believe, with the right one. I can't remember the exact reason, but we will go over that. We'll go over that in further detail whenever we start setting this up, and somebody that knows about setting these up is actually giving the information instead of me just taking a guess at why they do it that way. So all right, there's that. Boys and girls, I'm sorry I let you out, but she is dropped back in. My neighbor borrowed a lift, and so I grabbed him real quick while he was unloading off his trailer. take it into his garage and asked him if he could help me get this thing stabbed back in there real quick. So no different than taking it out. We just dropped it straight back in. It went in the new motor mount over here. That's your motor mount on your driver's side. And then on the passenger side, since I've got new frame rails, what I've got to do is take this motor mount here, and I got the engine picked up with my jack underneath it. I'm gonna bolt this on right there, where I'm gonna set the engine down, and then I've got to drill the 2 holes down there for this to go through. Got to drill all the way through the frame, and then these long boogers here go all the way down in there, and that's what holds your motor on the passenger side. So I'll get this thing drilled, and we'll have the motor sitting completely on its own back in the frame again. It's exciting stuff. Exciting stuff. Stand by. Remember me guys telling you that I took the clutch banjo bolt out after I took the motor out because it was easier to do, and I was going to put the new one back in? Well, guess what this idiot forgot to do? There's where the clutch banjo bolt goes. I got too excited slapping the motor in and forgot it, so I will start working on getting that thing put in here. Okay, I got the banjo bolt back in its hole there, right underneath the alternator. And I went ahead and mounted the clutch reservoir. If you've seen that in that time lapse, if you could tell what I was struggling with, this thing kept falling. I was thinking it'd be easier to keep this loose and then mount that, but when the motor's already in, it's easier to go ahead and mount your clutch reservoir. And it's a lot easier if you got a hole saw. I don't own any hole saw, so I had to use my 10 snips to cut my hole. There's an actual backing plate here. It's part of the frame that slides through. So I had to use 10 snips to cut my hole, which was a pain in the rear, but it turned out all right. And then I filed it down so I didn't have anything to mess with there. Then on the back of your clutch reservoir, you've got 1/2-inch nuts that you need to tighten up. And it only came with one, so I grabbed another nut, put that on there. So there's that. And then next, I need to remember how this mounts. I'm gonna have to go back and look at videos because I want to say it just goes. My old one didn't have this U shape. Oh, golly, sorry guys. My old one did not have this U-shaped bracket on there. What did it have? It had... It just had that on there. So, I may have to take that off if this one doesn't work. And I don't know why I wouldn't. I think it's just a bolt that goes through there. I think it's just a bolt that goes through there, so that ought to work. But get that bolted back up, and the clutch will be hooked back up. But I'm gonna leave it loose for now. One thing I did off camera. So my daughter called, so I didn't get it on film. I told you guys I was gonna get all new exhaust studs, and I've got those. I took them all out of the exhaust manifold. I'm trying to get as much stuff off the floor back there as possible. So I'm gonna get probably the exhaust mounted up tomorrow. But the last thing I will do tonight is, sorry, had my work light there. I will get the red box mounted back up on the firewall, and I will get my brake overfill or overflow container. This right here. This also mounts up on the firewall. In there somewhere. In there somewhere. And then the red box goes in between. So yeah, my firewall winds up being pretty full when I get all this on there. So I'll put you guys on time lapse while I get these mounted, and then we'll talk about them. Okay, there we have it. Your oil overflow or your catch can. It just attaches right into, there's a barb that comes up off the top of your crankcase there. That just goes over there and attaches to that. And the red box is mounted. Brake reservoir, clutch reservoir, firewall is complete. I'm gonna wait until, I want to heat shrink on my wiring, so I'm going to wait until I get that to finish up the wiring there, or I would move on to that next. But everything's right there. It's going to be coming up out of that harness, just straight up the firewall there into where everything goes. So it'll look much cleaner than the way it was before. So we are getting there. We are getting there. Next, I will probably go ahead and mount the exhaust. Get the exhaust on there. That'll get that out of the floor. And then the only thing I'll have left to hook up after that is the oil cooler. Run the oil lines from that, and then do the electrical, and engine should be hooked back up and ready to fire after that. So I'll get to work on these, putting the new studs in. I got new studs and new bolts. Let's see here. Oh, sorry, I keep calling these nuts bolts. I went ahead and got, I don't know if it makes a difference or not. We'll see if they weather the same. I told you those last ones, they were covered in rust, so I got copper on my those are just regular black. I couldn't get those in copper, but got those in black, and the nuts will be copper. So we'll see how this there you have it. Everything is back on. I am running the same pipes I had. There was a couple dents in them from the wreck, but I had one commenter say that dented tubes actually might provide a little more horsepower. I never did get to watch the YouTube video that he was referencing. There's a YouTube video out, I guess, showing some headers, and when they dented them up with a hammer, they actually ran more horsepower. But these aren't too bad. They are not constricted whatsoever. There's no cracks in them, so I'm going to continue to run them, and maybe at the end of the season I'll buy some new ones. I did notice, I don't remember this bar sitting right on top of my muffler. Now granted, nothing is set up, nothing is tuned on my suspension, and we are sitting at full droop right now. So once, you know, it gets a tire underneath it, obviously, and it's sitting on its own weight, it's going to be up. But I may need to rotate the exhaust down a little bit. We'll see. It's kind of looks like it's exiting higher than I remember it too. So I'll have to get on there and look at some old pictures and see where that was at. But that gets those holes covered up anyways, and I don't have to worry about anything getting inside the engine. So I think that's going to be a good stopping point for this video. We got a lot done. Sorry again that you didn't get to see the motor stab. It happened quick. I took advantage of my neighbor's hospitality while he was unloading an engine stand across the street for an engine he's putting in. But we got a lot done today. So motor's in, everything is plumbed back up except for the carburetors. We'll put those on in the next video. I'll go get the shrink wrap or the shrink tubing for the wiring. We'll get wiring finished up in the next video, and then we're just waiting on rear end so we can do some interior stuff as far as like mounting the seat back in there. We can get the body mounted back on. We're getting close, folks. We are getting close. It seems like there's still a lot to do if you look at the car at this point, but there's really not. I mean, this is my box of parts. We are down to just some bars and shocks that go on the rear end. Putting the axles back in the rear end and brake hubs, mounting body, and we're there. So appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure to like, share, subscribe. Make sure to like, share, subscribe. And we'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a good one.